you have an interest in fantasy, sci-fi, and anime type books, then you are in for a treat today, because my guest is a Cornish author here to tell us all about his new book, Honest Bonds. I'm joined by Tommy Williams. Hello, Tommy.
Hello.
Firstly, thank you so much for joining us here at Chaos today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's great to be here, frankly.
Brilliant stuff. So we're here to talk about your book, writing in general. First things first, I've got to shout out the t-shirt. For those who are watching, you can see that Tommy is wearing a t-shirt. For those who are just listening to the audio, you've got the full-on merch.
Yes, I do have a t-shirt that literally has a logo just plastered all across it. I got it custom made because it was like one of those things. I was actually considering whether to wear it or like something. I was actually contemplating to like a Super Mario or the shirt. I'm like, yeah, I'm wearing the shirt today.
I like
Might
it.
as well, you know.
The perfect opportunity for a bit of promotion. Hey. So let's start at the beginning. Obviously, we're here to talk about your book today, and I want to know, like, where did this all begin? Like, what got you into writing in the first place?
Oh, it goes back. Goes to the childhood a bit. Like most kids in primary school, you know, would play it, hide and seek, or whatever the case. Whenever I was with my friends, I would come up with adventure stories. For between year 3 and year 6, we had like a whole saga of the war between the Cleopians and the Floespians and stuff like that. And it wasn't until secondary that I was given a scrapbook that I actually started writing the story in. Okay. It's an old story. I look back at it and I cringe, but like that pretty much started my passion into writing. And like I've always had the knack for it. Like even when I'm not writing, I see something and I think, what is the story behind that? And like maybe I could do something with that, you know?
Yeah.
Like even if it's simple as just like an opening to a song or like a music video, I'm like, oh no, hold on a minute. There's more to that. There's potential. I want to do that.
Okay. Do you ever get, like, you hear a lot of writers, they say like they keep a notepad beside their bed because a lot of the inspiration will come at the times that you don't often expect it. Middle of the night, you need something to write down. I often find that funny to think of someone waking up in the night with inspiration and scribbling it down.
That does actually happen, yeah. But it's kind of the opposite for me, because like right as I go to bed, my brain's thinking ideas, and then my body goes, yeah, you're not sleeping until you write these down, mate. If I don't keep a notebook, I have to get up, go to the computer. I'm like, right, there we go, done. I'm gonna sleep. I think the worst case happened when I stayed at my mum's for Christmas, and I was there for a couple nights, and that's when the ideas hit. Just on fire, and I was just staying awake the whole time. I couldn't sleep for 2 nights because I couldn't write them down. I was like, oh god,
oh no.
And the funniest part, by the time I got home, actually able to write them down, gone, lost them. I'm like, great.
Typical. Always the case. So let's talk about Honest Bonds.
Yes.
This idea was created, I believe, 2014.
So that's when it started.
Okay.
It was initially under the idea called The Wizard and the Wolf. Okay. But the whole concept of a boy saving his sister was there since the start.
Right.
It then changed to Mafia Threats. I think that was like its name for a time. Then like Honest Bonds actually set in when I was thinking more of like the reasoning, because I was talking ideas with someone. They were asking questions, and when the idea came of the Honest Bond being an actual plot concept, I thought that would be a really good name for it. You know, it's like the noun and the name is sort of like a generic sort of title.
Yeah.
And you know, Mafia Threat was fine, but it was too vague, and in the Mafia, and it was a bit of a stupid idea. So when wizards were involved, Honest Bonds, really, when I added in the spell, the bond.
Love it. Okay, so without any spoilers, obviously, for those listening along today that want to know a brief summary of the story, what can you tell us?
So Honest Bonds is a story about a hitman called Beulah Trimpton. He's a cat-human hybrid, and it's basically that he's been killing people for money to keep him and his sister good, ever since their parents abandoned them. One night he sort of killed the wrong person for a large sum of money. That person was a member of the Neve, a group of dark wizards, and their leader, Gwal, essentially took his sister as compensation. And in order to get her back, Ryula basically has to kill some more through a group of names that Gwal was given him, but through a contract called an honest bond. a crystallized bracelet on his wrist, which you can actually see in the cover there, the bracelet on his wrist there. It gives him the names and where they are, and basically if he doesn't kill them, then the bond kills him.
Ah, I love the creative process that must come with this to get an idea like that. You got to be have you always been like quite a creative kind of guy?
Yeah, I mean, you can ask my friends, and I tend to overthink ideas. I've done proofreading for a friend actually on his fan project, and he basically had like 6 robots in a line. I'm like, what if you colored them individually? What if they're like the robot version of the Power Rangers? And he went, you're gonna have to do that, right? I'm like, yeah, I'll do it for you. So I always have those ideas, and the concept of the bond was there at the start, but in the original version, it was just a glowy bracelet that told him he had to be there in 2 weeks, and
Right.
I wasn't quite happy with that in the original draft. So in the final version, like actual stuck on the wrist, like it actually has consequences.
Yeah.
Like people see that, they know who he's working with and stuff like that.
I like it.
So yeah.
Brilliant. And obviously you must be so proud of the fact that the book is out now and you're done. But obviously I presume there must have been a lot of rewrites, a lot of struggles along the way as well. Can you tell me about some of the difficulties you faced?
So when it did initially come out in 2018, but comparing that to the finished one, it's sort of night and day. I mean, the original one had like 96 pages. This one got over 500.
Wow.
Some of the difficulties I faced, I say one of the major hurdles was, of all things, the ending.
Right.
Because I wanted to keep the ending the same, without spoiling, of course. I wanted to keep the ending the same. But people I told the idea to, I had a 50-50 split. Like 10 people I spoke to said they loved the ending, the original ending, and 10 others said they hated the original ending.
Oh.
So when I was writing the whole thing, for the longest time, I kept thinking, what can I do with that ending? I was thinking of 2 different avenues. It took a while until I actually got to that. I think another massive difficulty to face was how different would it have been from the original? Like,
Right.
with all these changes I was making, like, at what point was I not going alongside, but essentially taking a different route entirely? But eventually I was able to get it back on track, and I think the story that I've done so far is really good, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised you struggled sort of with an ending because, you sort of spend that time almost getting to that climax point of the story, and then how you end it is an important part of a book because almost that's either, are you closed? Obviously, again, this is without spoilers, but it's like, do you close the book completely or do you leave it open for a potential future?
It is the thing that the original ending, I had a lot of ideas for sequels, and this new one, which I'm still proud of, to be fair, because the way I made it work, it wasn't a half-assed thing. Like, I did genuinely make it work after I gave it a lot of thought, and I spoke to my proofreader about it. But like it did definitely, like, it's like, okay, yeah, it definitely works. But downside, not a lot of sequel ideas that I could have utilized to my advantage. But it's still definitely, it's a good, satisfying conclusion.
Yeah, we're happy with it. I like that. So tell me a little bit more deeper as well about, obviously, a story like this. We've talked about you being sort of quite creative. Where did the inspiration for the book come from?
A lot of inspiration, really. Sorry. Like, since I was like 3, 4, I've grown up with video games. Like, I've had a Nintendo controller in my hand almost all my life, and I've taken a lot of inspiration from some of those, some of the games I played. But the main sort of inspiration is like anime,
Right.
Japanese animation. I've taken ideas from, but like I've gone inspired by the anime I've watched. I believe in the original version there was heavy inspiration from I believe it's Shonen's Fairy Tail and Rooster Teeth's Ruby.
Right.
But this one is sort of like, obviously, like I've gone to introduce some more series. I've taken more inspiration. Like I took out notes on how stories could be written in those, and which actually anime has also helped some of my friends give feedback as well, which has led to one of the major changes of the book, which was Ryula, the main character, because originally he was a wizard with like fire and ice magic. But then one of my friends suggested, like, what if he was a cat person? Which is, like, animal people are sort of a massive staple in animation, Japanese anime. And I was like, huh, yeah, that could work, actually. And I was like, okay, I'll rewrite this again. So because I couldn't just change a couple things.
Of course.
But it, like, you know, thanks to that inspiration in anime, I saw how they were like portrayed, and I was like, yeah, all right, yeah, no, that works.
Okay. I mean, that's the whole point of honest feedback as well. You put it out there, you get people's comments, ideas, and then it can develop from there. You mentioned one of the changes there. Were there lots of changes throughout the way?
Oh yeah, there were a lot of changes. The bond I mentioned changed from a basic direction and a time limit to kill people or you will be killed, which was interesting in how I could portray it in other characters and how they would have the bond as well. Because it led to far more ideas. And with Ryula now being a cat person, I was able to like get, okay, how would racial diversity get involved without it seeming a bit too realistic? But and because of that, it led to far more ideas that made it a far larger book and something I'm definitely more proud of. I believe there was like another big one. No, it wasn't that big, but I do remember that I had a lot of feedback about the poker tournaments that was involved in it. And the proper Casino Royale scene in it. It's still in it.
Okay.
But it's like when I was talking to my proofreader, I believe he said he said I'm proofreading this. I'm still on the poker scene, by the way. I'm like, that's a bit long, isn't it?
Oh.
But the downside to the changes, of course, it's a larger book.
Right.
And the downside to that is it's costly. I couldn't set the cost how I wanted to. And some people have said to me, couldn't you just take bits out of the story? And I'm like, no, you can't.
No.
You can't just cut that out and not have that explained. The book explains more than a film does.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, here I am in my town. I'm over there now.
Yeah, the thing is, it's your baby as well, isn't it? Like, I can't imagine spending so much time and energy on something and then you pass it to someone else to read and they almost criticize or like take this bit out and you're like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that.
It is actually funny. I've got some sales. One person who bought the book gave it to his mother and she hates it.
Oh no.
He said to me in a call saying, I'll be honest with you, Tommy, she explicit hates your book.
I mean, Tommy, we're here to promote good things about your book today. I mean, come on. You're not really selling it, are you?
I just find it funny, you know?
We love honesty here. But hey that's
honesty.
Hey. Thing is, like, you're not going to please everyone, are you?
No, of course
and
not.
Everyone's got different interests and passions. You know, for example, myself, you know, you touched on anime there. That's a whole world that I'm not even really remotely aware of. Like, I've not been too aware of that. So, but it's so popular, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
the anime itself.
Like back in the 80s and 90s, you know, people just saw anime as just a weird cartoon. Like, you know, you look at Dragon Ball back then, you know, but you probably wouldn't think it was from Japan. But
yeah,
like it definitely has like a larger influence nowadays. Especially now, thanks to the internet, you know, people can access that sort of information more, and sites like Crunchyroll. And Netflix and stuff, they have more of these shows. People can get more invested, more involved. And I honestly think that is great, that people can enjoy other cultures and other cultures can enjoy our stuff. Like, I think Wallace and Gromit is insane in Japan.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, anime is definitely huge in the UK. I just think the downside to it is the UK is not big on anime. Because whenever a film comes out, unless it's Pokemon, it's rarely going to be in cinemas.
That's true. And I suppose that's why, that's almost one of the positives of, we have access to the internet now and online selling and things, so the market is still there to be tapped into. But yeah, it is amazing how the sort of anime world is, and sort of just generally, you know, without causing offense, the sort of geeky gaming kind of, that sort of vibe, it is getting a lot more mainstream now, isn't it? Which is great.
Yeah, like more people are open to who they want to be and what they like, and you know,
should.
Like on the internet. Oh yeah, of course. And like on the internet, you could find like-minded individuals to discuss, and you can make friendships about that. That's how I made some of the best friends a guy could ask for online.
Yeah.
Because we've had interest in anime and video games. One of them I met on a Sonic the Hedgehog fan page, and he was the proofreader for the book.
Love that. Brilliant. Okay, so let's talk sort of moving forward. As a writer, what's next for your writing career?
So I'm actually going to make a little announcement.
Ooh.
Public. The sequel for Honest Bonds is in the works.
Dun, 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 dun.
It's called The Human Plague.
Okay.
Slow development, but I am working hard on it. And I'm planning on expanding the brand as much as I can. I want to get in touch with animation studios, get in touch with a game developer to make a sort of game for it. Because in my opinion, I believe it has potential to be other medias. And this is someone who experienced those medias, so it won't be sort of like those half-assed things that just like on the chopping block. There you go, release it cheap, stuff like that. But I do have a couple of other projects in the works.
Great.
Nothing too concrete yet, but stuff that worst case scenario will be released as a short story compilation. But with the ideas I'm shooting back and forth with my friends, I'm quite happy with how they're turning out. But right now, I'm going to be focusing on The Human Plague and see how that goes.
Sounds very promising. I like the sound of that. Great stuff. And for anyone listening who may be thinking, I'm a bit of a creative person as well. I reckon I could give it a go. What advice would you have for sort of any writers sort of setting out into their early career? I
do believe in the ability that anyone can write a book. Like, anyone can be creative. People say like, "Oh, I'm not creative enough." I think that's just them limiting themselves. I think if you have an idea, then definitely go for it. Just make sure that you trust. You have those who you can trust, who will give you honest feedback. Not just yes men.
Yes.
And those who say like you are your own worst critic, you're not. Take it from me. Like, from my experience, you're not your own worst critic. Because of course you're gonna look at your stuff with a bias, aren't you?
Yes.
You look at this idea and you think, yeah, this is pretty good. I'm happy with this. I can't make it any better. You have someone with that honest feedback, and it makes you think more. Like, how will the story like unfold? They say, well, what if you did this? Think about what if I did that. And I think if you are gonna be like a startup writer, listen to that feedback. Like, they may seem harsh, but sometimes being cruel is, the best way to go about it. It's like, if a chef wants, feedback on the cooking, you got to be blunt. This sucks. Try changing the ingredients a bit.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a chef to criticize food. Like, you don't need to be an author to criticize a book.
It's some great advice, and it sounds like you've gone about things the right way. You've put it out there. You've got people's feedback. You've worked changes. You've used your own inspirations as well. And yeah, it sounds great. And it sounds like something you should be incredibly proud of.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely proud of it. And like the fact that it is out there available for the public.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just annoyed I can't set the price lower. That genuinely, I wanted to.
Right.
But Amazon just wouldn't let me.
Oh. Okay, so this is opportunity now. Let's promote this. Where can people find your book? Where can they buy it from?
So it's available on Amazon. It's available on Kindle Unlimited. So if you're paying for that service, then go nuts. It's free. Paperback and hardback. The price. Am I allowed to discuss price?
Of course. Yeah.
The Kindle, I believe, is £10. The paperback is £20, and the hardcover is £25. Bit pricey. But it's the way Kindle Direct Publishing works, you see.
Right.
The larger the book, the more they take to print it and distribute it and stuff, which is understandable, if a bit gutting, because I wanted it to be 15, but they just wouldn't let me. Corporations, they're fun.
But hey, you've got a second chance now with the sequel, so you never know.
With the Human Plague, there are some ideas for that, as well as an idea of getting a nice alternative cover for the first book.
Ooh.
So not out yet. Just currently discussing with the artist, but people might have a choice of which one they like.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. And aside from where people can find the Honest Bonds book. Where else can people find you, follow you, just to make sure that they keep up to date with all your work?
So I'm a bit active on Twitter, Sergeant Major Mario at Sergeant Major M. I also make videos on YouTube, some comedy memes, occasional live streams here and there. YouTube is also Sergeant Major Mario. I made it like 11 years ago. Couldn't be bothered to change the name, but yeah, currently on hiatus because my PC is not good. But once I get a new PC, I'll be back on the streaming side of things. So, hey, maybe I'll see you in chat. Don't be afraid to say hello.
Brilliant stuff. Tommy, thank you so much for joining me.
It's been great being here.
Brilliant stuff. And yeah, just best of luck with the promotion of the book and whatever comes up in the future with the sequel. Thank you.
Thank you very much.